King Charles III will be crowned king today in Britain's biggest ceremonial event for 7 decades. A display of pageantry dating back 1,000 years. Charles is 74 years old and his wife Camilla will be crowned in London's Westminister Abbey in a glittering but solemn religious ceremony with traditions dating back some 1,000 years, followed by a procession. Charles succeeded his mother, Queen Elizabeth, when she died last September. And at 74, he will become the oldest British monarch to have the 360-year-old St. Edward's crown placed on his head. And he sits upon a 14th century throne at London's Westminster Abbey. The royals were greeted by cheers of hip hip hurrah and God save the king as they greeted the well-wishers, many of whom had travelled from across the world. India Today's Jonathan Gilbert is getting us more details on that story. Joining us from London right now, Jonathan. Crowds have started to gather in London for a moment in history, even as we stay with these pictures coming in from London there. Get us an idea about the current mood. What are the people saying about this historic development today, this historic moment today?
Well, as you say, the crowds have been gathering for, actually for many, many days. I'm standing here in Hyde Park. You can see these well-wishers here behind me. They will come to watch the ceremony on a giant screen that's been erected just down the road there, because none of these people will be able to get anywhere near Buckingham Palace. The people outside Buckingham Palace and all the way along the Mall have been camping out there literally for days. Such is the spirit and fervour and sense of national pride that has engulfed certainly certain sections of the population here. I mean, there are estimated to be some 50-odd thousand people here in the park alone, and that's just to watch it on TV. So as you say, we're just coming up to about an hour now before the start of this extraordinary 1,000-year-old ceremony. The future king and future queen Camilla will travel in a fairy tale coach. You have seen that on your screens before, of course, all the way from Buckingham Palace, slowly up the Mall, and then down Whitehall, all the way to Westminster Abbey, where this 2-hour-long ceremony will commence. Some of those traditions going back, as you say, 1,000 years, or sometimes more. It will involve people of many faiths. For the first time, Charles, as we well know, is an extremely broad-minded and ecumenical monarch, but there will also be moments of high ceremony, the passing over of orbs and scepters and the proclamation of oaths, and then, of course, the centerpiece of the entire ceremony, the coronation itself, where the crown will literally be placed upon his head by the Archbishop of Canterbury. It's so dramatic. You couldn't imagine anything in the most high-blown Hollywood film, I imagine. After that ceremony, they will return along the same route in another golden carriage, and then finally the entire family will assemble upon the famous balcony at Buckingham Palace to greet the crowds. At that stage, there will be tens of thousands of adoring flag-waving fans, I imagine. On the Mall itself, there will be a military fly past, and then we await the reaction of the then King and Queen. So certainly excitement from top to bottom, whether you're at the palace, whether you're at the Abbey, or whether you've simply come here to the park to watch the proceedings with your family and a picnic.
Well, absolutely. Also to look out for, Jonathan, in fact, dignitaries, heads of state from over 100 countries are to be present at this historic ceremony today.
Yes, that's right. I mean, obviously the invitation went out to nearly every world leader, with only a few obvious exceptions. President Joe Biden has not attended. That's ruffled feathers in some quarters, although it has been pointed out that President Eisenhower also skipped the Queen's 1953 coronation. It just seems to be a little bit of a tradition from these leaders from the New World, but certainly many other hundreds of world leaders and dignitaries are to be assembled within the Abbey itself. Of course, including those remaining members of the Commonwealth. One forgets that some 2 billion people around the world notionally live within the Commonwealth, this loose affiliation of former British colonies, and they'll all be there, even though some of them are experiencing strong Republican currents and trends at home. This will be their chance to reaffirm their allegiance, if not to the Crown, then certainly to the concept of unity and cooperation that exists within the Commonwealth structure.